pretty good at it. I suck at it.
Yeah.
Subtly, we drive a Maserati. Are you kidding me?
Nothing subtle about a Maserati.
No. Thank God.
Get my.
Your wires work now?
Oh yeah.
How they do.
Whew.
A little closer. Closer.
I'm getting there. It's going up. I'm ramping up.
Fading. Got it.
That's right. Welcome to Everyone Racers, a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. It doesn't matter what kind of Lemachamp or Lucky Track Dog League you run, SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate. As long as you drive it hard and built it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussion, tips, tricks, news and notes in the world of amateur endurance racing, and whether it's on the spot, hella sweet, or we're lucky enough, and Chrissy gives us just the tip, we are sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less. Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mental. And we are Everyone Racers. Thanks for coming back and listening to a Rockford Turn episode of our podcast. The classic James Garner show, The Rockford Files, the TV detective's signature car mover was the J-turn, where he would go backwards, spin the front end of the car around, and then proceed 180 degrees in the opposite direction without stopping. It happened so often, it became known as the Rockford Turn, or simply pulling a Rockford. So it's episode 180, and if you're not driving a car, more importantly,
see where you
it took
went
me a
with
minute.
that.
Okay. Interesting story. Oh, go on. You can finish
say, if you're not pulling a Rockford, pull out that E1R bingo card.
And you can automatically check off. Mental tells a story that it went somewhere.
It went somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
All right. Fine.
So, Chris, do you know what I'm about to say about Omar?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Omar is a guy on our team, and he was one of the early arrive and drives. And early in the process, we had an online form that you had to fill out.
It's true.
And Omar uploaded a resume of his motorsports experience and included in his skills pulling Rockfords.
Wow.
You know what the best car to pull Rockford turns in is?
Firebird.
A front wheel drive rental car.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Without a doubt.
Chrissy,
Yes.
what you working on?
Well, we did a whole lot of Z work this weekend, which is great because we are still in quarantine, so we've got plenty of time by ourselves. So last weekend, the weekend before, I had made and crafted the Z headlight covers, but I had not installed them. So we had to do a little bit more trimming and then installed them with some zip screws on one side and screws on the other, and they look pretty good. They're made from the top part of the hood that we cut out.
No.
So they match. They're black.
Aluminum.
They're aluminum. They're very light, and they fit really well. So they ended up turning out pretty well. Happy to get that project done. It was one of those takes you a long time to fab it, cut it out, make it pretty, and then it's done. I did some cleanup. I tried to. I actually did pick off some more sound deadening on the inside, and then did some vacuuming. We're going to save the rest of the cleanup for when we get to the truck. And then I also assisted with the hood bulge. We were trying to cover that and make it pretty, and it actually looks pretty good. So that's awesome. And I think hopefully,
sorry, Randy.
Since we have a guest, why don't you explain why we need to make a hood bulge in our 300Z?
So our 300Z is getting an LS swap that doesn't fit in the engine bay.
It got the swap.
It got the swap. The swap is just about done. We don't know if it runs. Let's hope it runs.
Maybe tomorrow. By Saturday. I'll say by Saturday.
Okay. You can add the problems that we're finding now. And so when you put the hood down, it is a nice, it doesn't close at all. So we basically needed to cut out the engine where the engine would be sitting into the hood, but we wanted to cover it with something. So we ended up making a really nice chicken wire mesh on top. We cut it out exactly to and made it kind of we made angles on it, so it's not just kind of like a smush it down
like a hump.
It's not a hump. Well, I mean, it is a hump, but it's a nice angular hump.
It has sides
exactly where the engine is under the hood. So we made that, and then we riveted it down with the amazing pneumatic riveter gun, which is awesome. And so that made everything go really quickly. And Chris and I did that together. And then we covered it with fiberglass. And then we didn't have enough matte or epoxy. So that was great. Or resin. I think resin, whatever.
We made
Either.
do.
We did.
Barely.
It was a little tight. So that is pretty much done. It looks really ugly right now, but we have to, do a little bit of sanding, which we're not going to do in the garage with the closed door. So we'll handle that in a little bit later. Moving on, we installed El Surf Bordeaux with some riv nuts. So everybody saw the video.
El Surf Bordeaux?
Okay, hold on. I was going to jump to the riv nuts because riv nuts are amazing. And Jeff is, there you go. So we are looking at the pictures that I posted.
Don't give away too much of the rib nuts because it's in our listener feedback.
I saw, no problem. I'm
Okay.
just saying that is a new fun tool, which we'll be talking about soon. But that's where we started to use El Surf Bordeaux. We started to use the riv nuts to install El Surf Bordeaux. So that is what we call, because it's in shape of a surfboard, or kind of in the shape of a surfboard. It is
like a skimboard size, I would
Sure,
say.
it's totally a skimboard size, but you called it El Surf Bordeaux, so that's why it went that way. But basically, it is the panel that is going to protect the under layer of the engine. So it goes on. There you go. Thank you. There's a picture that I posted on all the Insta faces. I think Chris standing with El Surf Bordeaux. But that is the panel that is now installed under the between the engine and the floor it's like an under tray.
It connects the front edge of the bumper to the subframe.
Yeah, if anyone can see
the whole underside.
If anyone can see this here, these is where the front bumpers goes.
Yep.
And that's where we put the riv nuts into.
Please
It is
ignore that
basically
there are
an under tray as I see it. It's a big aluminum or
Yeah.
under
It's
tray.
metal.
It's aluminum.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
aluminum?
Okay, aluminium under tray.
Please ignore right here where there are two holes.
All right,
I
nobody will ever see it.
missed.
You have to be way under the engine to see that. So I assisted with that. It was a lot of togetherness projects because it was a lot easier to do with two of us. Chris, do you want to fill in the other spots?
Yeah, it's mostly what Chrissy said. Plus, after fiberglassing the hood scoop, I took some fairing compound because having a boat repair hobby, which is a worse hobby than
What
cars.
terrible hobby! That's
Don't do that.
Oh.
Don't restore old boats. Anyway, I have lots of equipment for making things out of fiberglass. So I have some fairing compound putty. So you mix the two pieces, and it was blue and red and yellow, and mix them until they turn green, and then you smear it on and wait until it hardens. It's amazing. So I put that all around the edges to clean up the edges. It needs to be sanded. I'm not sanding it inside. So we're gonna wait until it's nice and warm to sand that. So until then, it's an extra green layer around that red layer, and it looks terrible, but that's okay because it's sealed up. So what else do we do? I made an air dam out of garden edging that is using wood screws into the bottom of the bumper. It looks spectacular, but actually it's pretty stiff, and I think it'll work nicely. And I had the edging in the shed for 10 years. So it's a good use of old home stuff. And actually used to be around the tree in our front yard. So
is this the same stuff that was the side skirts on Godzilla?
No, that is actual proper plastic sheathing that is made for doing that kind of thing. This is garden edging. It's actual garden edging.
We actually used it on the Honda before.
On the Civic, the old Civic had one. Actually, and they all had it at some point. Anyway, we had it in the yard.
We didn't take it out of a garden though. We took it out of the
No, it was around the tree, around the front tree when we bought the house, and that's what we took it out of.
Yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah, totally. Made window
I was just
sticks.
picturing taking it from a garden, hey, I need this, yoink.
No, not from somebody else's. We took it
That
out of the
would
garden.
be funny though.
Made window sticks to hold the window up, but I cut a notch in the top of them this time so that you put the stick in and it holds itself in nicely. And they're actually PVC 1x4s, so they fit nicely in the door. They're great.
I had window sticks. Did they disappear?
They were terrible. There was a janky assortment of put this one and then they got this one that goes there, and then there's the other one.
Sometimes they were taped together.
Right? Yeah,
they weren't taped together.
When you see these, you'll say, "Yeah, these are
okay, sure."
Yeah, you will. And last night I did an alignment because I am completely out of things to do on this car until the spark plug wires come, because we found that with headers, the stock spark plug wires do not fit. They don't fit in the gap between the header tubes to get on. So now we're waiting for better or smaller headed spark plug wires.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. What exactly is wrong with them?
The heads are too long.
Okay.
Of the wires, so they don't fit.
Like the plug rubbery.
It's the plug attachment. The plug attachment where it goes to the plug itself doesn't fit between the headers on half of them. So more of those are coming. But aside from that, I'm actually completely out of things to do as of tonight. But so last night I did an alignment: 2 degrees of camber in the back, 3 degrees in the front, 6 degrees of caster in the front, 8th toe in the rear, 16th toe in the front. According to Nissan, that's pretty much where you want to be, except we got more camber and caster. So we'll find out. We're starting a logbook, and we're going to do some tire temps, and the fun of figuring out what setup a new car likes that you've never run before.
My God, we're taking notes. It's almost like you've done this before.
It's been a long time since we had a new car. Because if you think about it,
if it's a Honda, like I know what to do with that.
Well, and then we had two S10s, two different S10s. So when we built the Ombre, we kind of already knew what we were doing.
And it's not like we're doing setup notes on a Citroen or a Rolls Royce.
No.
So.
Speaking of which, get a hold of we've got Great Globs of Oil. They have emailed us and posted on
I
YouTube.
talked to Yuri today.
Okay,
great,
excellent.
All right, that's all I've been doing. Jeff, what have you been doing?
So I had to work on Saturday, and it rained and was freezing cold here on Sunday. So I did a lot of indoor projects. I had to fix the rear wiper on the mighty Mazda 3 because the snow and ice literally ripped it off of its mount. So I had to get a new wiper arm. And then I was having this really weird thing with the brand new V1 that I installed, the Valentine one. My windshield wipers, when they activated, would cycle the power very briefly, which is fine unless you try and use like the intermittent setting, because then it just constantly restarted.
Yeah, it goes through the entire boot cycle where it makes all of its noises.
Every single noise and every single light comes on. So I literally looked at my fuse box, and I had fused it into what was labeled Bose. I do not have anything made by Bose in my car, so it was an open circuit. So I said, well, if that one doesn't work, let me look at the panel and find another one. So I found another one that says Bose, and I stuck it in, and it worked perfectly, only to discover that it's constant power, not switched power. So my radar detector has been on for the last week.
It's good to know when.
Yeah, how did you?
There's cops in your cul-de-sac when you're in the house. That's important.
Yeah.
Did it run your battery down? Did you?
No. I discovered it today, and I unplugged it. So from Sunday to today, it's been running 3 days.
If you lived closer to an Air Force or a military aviation facility, that's always fun. Actually,
I drive by one on the way to work. So
yeah. Oh, does it go nuts? Because the boat in the cornfield, is that the one?
Yeah. No. I go by an actual international airport of Atlantic City, which has an FAA center and a Air National Guard base, and so F-16s take over my head all the time. I have the V1 Valentine 1 version 2, which will work with your apps. So I turn an app on my phone, and it uses the phone's GPS to lock out things like, hey, I know there's an airport there.
Nice.
Fancy. So Bethel, what are you working on? I know you had more. I should also say I was painting my house. Everyone on social media is commenting on the paint colors. So yes, I'm painting. But go on, Bethel. Tell us what you're working on.
So I have a full construction dumpster. Full construction dumpster. We have max performed it. It is right there at the fill line. Yeah, you 3 inches on the top is as far as you're allowed to go, and we are right there. I have one naked roof. I also have
naked. Roof.
Yeah, exactly. I have a working Toyota pickup.
No.
I do, and I drove it around, and then I drove it to work. Can't drive it at night because I don't have taillights, and I don't know why. But I have brake lights and turn signals and headlights.
Exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was great. I posted a video on our Slack channel, and Chris, wisely asked, "Is it as tragic as you thought it would be? And the answer is yes. And at the same time, I'm just giggling the entire time I'm driving it. Got no radio. It's noisy as all get out. I think the clutch is slipping, and it might be the clutch is slipping or the pedal just doesn't come all the way up. It gets nowhere in a hurry. I do not have a catch tube. So when the radiator gets warm, it just starts blowing it right out of the
you don't need that either.
It's
fine.
Yes.
Put a bottle on it.
Right. Which is what I have to do, which, yes, you don't need that until, say, like it overheats and starts smoking. And then you,
What do you live in a desert?
Yeah, exactly. At altitude. And then you also pull over, realize you don't have a mask, and I've got to go into a store and buy 2 jugs of water. And so I'm standing there with 2 jugs of water. I've got my shirt over my nose, and I'm a mask person. I get it. But she's like, I can't help you because you're not wearing a mask. I'm like, well, just sell me these and I'll leave. And she goes, I can't. I'm like, do you sell masks? She said, yes. I go, I will buy a mask.
Oh, come on.
We're not in Texas. So, they have rules that they have to follow on that one. And then I drove it to work with both of those jugs refilled in my passenger seat because I had to use them on the way home, because it doesn't overheat, but as soon as the water gets to temp, it starts spewing it out, and then doesn't have enough water, so it almost immediately overheats.
I have a tech tip. Are you ready for the tech tip?
Put a bottle on the.
Pour one of those bottles in. Stick it under the hood empty. Put a hose in it.
Yeah.
And
the hose isn't long enough. I've got to do the old hot rodder trick. Mount an aluminum bottle over to the side and get that all taken care of.
I understand.
Tomorrow, I am on an airplane to Dallas for this weekend. I'll be working with Extreme Experience. I am not entirely enthusiastic about Texas's recent decisions. However, I got my second COVID shot today, so screw all those losers. And also for the
I'm so excited for what you're about to say.
For the first time since 2019, and I had maintained this status forever, I have now rejoined the world of Porsche ownership.
And what
no
kind of
good
terrible
can come from this?
Yeah, what kind of terrible decision did you make?
It's not like he got a 2011 Boxster S or something.
Transaxle.
No.
Transaxle.
No.
Transaxle.
It is every bit as tragic as you guys expect it to be.
Oh, Eric is going to I
actually texted him before I went and looked at it, and he said, check here, and if it's good.
For the podcasters, put it up there again so we can explain it.
It's a primer blue 914. It's
72.
Okay. Why?
Is that like a gold steel wheel? What's going on there?
Nah, it's just it's rusty.
Just
rusty.
Rust.
No engine,
Desert
no
rust.
transmission. Yeah, exactly.
That's expected.
All surface rust. No engine, no transmission, no title. It is going to be a vintage racer. I was actively looking for a Formula V because I want an open air vintage racer, and this popped up, and I can actually have an engine and a transmission in it for less than what I can find for a Formula V that needs to be restored. And I'm going to cut the windshield off and get the same effect. Cheap on consumables. I'll get passed by everybody. It's the same thing. Plus, I get to say I have a Porsche again.
And what kind of motor, pray tell, will you be putting in this?
So the research says I'll regret it because I'll get pulled by every bug-eye sprite in the Vintage Auto Racing Association in California. But I'm going to go with the 1.7 with the dual carbs and a hot cam.
Yep. Bring things to do while on straightaways.
Sudoku. Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And but now I've looked at the California Vera rules, and this is not going to happen until 2022. But it was too good of a deal to pass off. But yeah, it's going to be almost competitive with some things. So on that,
turtles
and yeah, I like
people
turtles.
in wheelchairs.
People in wheelchairs. But yeah, no, your older MG sprites that were, are using the 1200s and some of those kind of things. So yeah, we're not going to get anywhere in a hurry, and we'll probably have time to talk to each other while we're on the straightaway. Hey, Bob, like those tires, looks good. So it's going to be a fun one.
So you can do the stairs they did in Ford versus Ferrari down the straights, but you're going like
absolutely.
40. And at 40, totally, it's not that dangerous to just stare at the guy.
And you
Hey,
gotta
Chris,
get
look
the-
that way.
the
Look that way
intimidating-
again.
The intimidating glare.
No, the other way. There you go. Now we're looking at each other.
Good.
Yeah,
We're just
intimidating.
gonna stare at each other. Yep.
Intimidating snarl as you do that, and then tell them, "I'm going to outbreak you in this corner." So we're doing.
I'm
that.
going to start at the 1,000.
It's a please, it's a 914. It I think my Toyota may actually weigh more. I can start at the 100 and be fine because
That
I'm
can be
only
going
gonna be
very
doing
quickly,
45.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's true. You just lift.
Just lift. Now, normally by now you would have heard a new voice, but he's unusually
Very
disciplined for one of our
disciplined.
guests. So you have not heard a new voice, but we are actually really, really excited. May not be as well known as some of our previous guests. I think you're going to find him every bit as interesting. I think my co-host agreed because they were reading the messages on Facebook. It is Eric Peterson, Chief Principal of Dead Pedal Racing, which, as we mentioned, is now, or going to talk about, is on their second Maserati BiTurbo that they run in amateur endurance racing.
Still
That's just
a better
start.
decision than an engineless, motorless 914. Go on. I'm sorry.
Said the guy who bought a Z from guys that
Teethless rednecks. I know.
So he actually has the coolest job title I've ever heard, and that is Chief Scientist. And not only am I going to say welcome to the show, I will remind Eric that your own son hasn't even had you on his podcast. So we're really, really excited on this one. We talked about this before we started recording. We've been wanting you on this show since like episode 17 when we first saw this was Maserati by number 1. So Eric, thank you for being here. What are you working on?
Well, thanks for having me. By the way, let me know how the inside of that post office looks. So you've got a Porsche.
Yep.
We're trying to get ready for the Daytona race, Champ Car race on the 10th. The return of version C of the second Maserati. We've been watching how things have been going. We've got a little bit bigger motor in it, which, by the way, is legal without a swap in Champ Car, the way the rules are now. We've learned how to read the rules like some of the others have.
Yes,
we're going after Riley.
They do like that in Champ. They're all about their rules.
Yeah. So we're going after the
Bill.
big
Bill
boys
Strong's a
also.
friend of ours. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a new wing on it. We've got a new engine in it. We've got new turbos, newish motor, because you don't get new BiTurbo motors or BiTurbo motors. So we've got a few tricks we pulled on. The last dyno run we did before this motor was in, we had about 270 at the wheels.
That's healthy.
We're going to be over 300 with a 2.8 in there.
I think it's more than when they were new.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
A lot more.
Knew they were only 187, but as soon as you pulled the cats off, I mean, you were well over 200. So, and the air pump. But we also have we also have the weight down to 2,300 pounds. So this should be a go-getter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
healthy.
We've been working this a long time.
Yeah. Have you run Daytona before?
Yes, a couple of years ago.
Yes, I my first time was running Daytona was with Champ Car, and granted it was in a Honda Accord, but I had that moment at sunset under the lights going into turn 3, and I'm like, I'm running Daytona under the lights. It doesn't matter what I'm driving, and you're going to be doing it in a very fast car. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we hope so. Anyway, we'll see how we did. Last time I was there, it didn't end well for us. But, everybody was so thunderstruck, and they were so happy to be there. Decided to take a vacation, and when I didn't show up on a lap for about 30 minutes. Because my radio died and my power all died, and I came walking up to the pit crew, and everybody looked at me like, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the car." So it didn't work well.
No, nobody noticed.
Nobody noticed, right?
No, nobody's looking at the lap times. Nobody's been there.
Yeah. So we're hoping for better this time. And the car is much more mature than it has been. Done a lot of things to it.
And you said Maserati 2. Is this the second Maserati or the first which one is this that now has 300-ish horsepower?
This is the second one.
Second one.
And actually, this one was actually featured as the Las Vegas Maserati on Hoonigan a while, several years ago. We bought it that way. And they said it had 500 wheel horsepower, and we all found that was all lies anyway. It had an ECU in it that could never ever have run the car. It was a joke. But this is the first one we had met its demise at Watkins Glen. And the worst of it was we were winning class. We were leading the class at the time. It met its demise by 5 laps.
Oh, that's
bummer.
the worst.
I hate that when that happens.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, it was a tough crash. But it was either T-bone the Miata who had spun in front of us off of turn 9A, or take the Armco, and we took the Armco.
Yeah,
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's the more noble, if not more painful, decision.
Yeah. The cool thing is that when we came back in, when it was towed in, we literally had people that sent us money to get another one built. I'm not kidding.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful crowdsourced Maserati.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I got if Jeff has enabled screen sharing. I think we have you've sent us lots of pictures to our email, and I hesitate.
I don't know if I had screen sharing. Did I? Hold on a minute. Let me make sure I got it.
Let me see if I can get this to. There we go. I believe this is a picture of.
Go ahead. Screen sharing should work.
Maserati number uno here. See if this works. Yay! There it is. Is that it? Do I have that one correct? Is that the first one?
Yeah, that was at Laguna Seca in I think 2017.
That is clean looking. Very clean looking.
Yeah, it is.
That is a red and two-tone
Thank
red
you.
and black with the normal graphics package by Turbo with some hood vents, and you can see the cage, and looks nice.
What are those? Those are almost everyone runs those wheels, but why the name is escaping me? I want to say EP1s or EF1s or something.
They're gone now. Can't get them anymore.
There are so many variants that look similar
look
to
like that.
Right. But you've got it's got a perfect rake, just a slight nose down attitude, which complements the design lines of the car, and annoyingly, at least in this picture, annoyingly dent free. My goodness.
Yeah. You've either done a lot of banging, or that is really early in its career.
No, we have a really good body guy.
I'm sure you do.
Actually, that was right after that. That's kind of a funny story on that. That particular picture was really the first public picture with that car, because it was the first race after we got wrecked at Road America on that same side. A guy in a 73 or 4 Mustang, 73 Mustang, I guess. We were chasing him down. Of course, the Maserati is a heck of a lot more nimble, and went into the bend. They were running the bend that weekend, and he spun in front of us. We were chasing him down, and he did the rookie mistake of coming back on track at full throttle.
Like Mustangs will do.
Like Mustangs will do. And
it saw a crowd. It's not his fault. The Mustang saw a crowd and couldn't help itself.
Yeah. And T-boned us hard. So that left-hand side, that driver's side, was completely tore off by the time that was done.
All right.
And
I'm gonna share another one while you're talking.
All right. And we found a donor red Maserati just like this, about 20 miles away from Road America, with a barn
Get
lean.
out.
I paid $500 for it.
The
Nice.
only Maserati in Wisconsin, no doubt.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Right. So we ended up buying that, hauling it back, and our body guy literally cut the side off of the 87, took the 84, which was the red one, and welded it together, and that's what you see.
Nice.
Damn.
We did that with a TR7 once.
It didn't turn out as good.
No,
as
not nearly as good. The body lines were not even close to straight. Well, we're going to keep talking to Eric about all of this wonderful Maserati things a little bit later in the show. We're going to move on to news and notes, but Eric, please chime in and have some conversations about the stories if you care, because some of these you're probably not going to care about in our news and notes section.
So Volvo has announced they plan to be all electric by 2030. Now, they're not the only automaker to make this pledge. Both Jaguar and GM have made similar vows, but the Swedes are going to step further. As Jay Ramey tells us over at Auto Week, Volvo has indicated they plan on changing the entire way they sell cars, stating their new family of electric cars will be available online only in the near future. So from the article, Volvo plans to invest seriously in its online sales channel and radically reduce complexity in its lineup. So they're going to have like 3 cars apparently, and you can buy them online. Sounds familiar. Also aims to establish set pricing models, which is good. No one likes the dealer hassle. So put together, this could mean traditional dealers would effectively be relegated to car delivery and service. They've already addressed a traditional ownership model of subscription service in Europe called the Volvo Clubs, where you can share a percentage of ownership in the car. I don't think a lot of people are going to mourn not going to the dealership much.
No,
so
dealership, never going to bother.
There's going to be incredible lawsuits from the National Automotive Dealers Association for this kind of thing and others, but they're gonna die fighting.
I can't even imagine sharing a car with somebody.
Too much money.
It seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah, it depends on how clean they are.
Oh, it depends.
I
Right, if I
share a car with Jeff.
I would never share a car with
No,
Jeff.
that'd be a mistake.
Ever.
Right.
Oh, we were for one of the last times driving in the Mazda today to go out to the store, and I was like, "This car is so darn clean."
And I'm thinking, which parts am I going to take off, and which ones are we going to keep, and which ones can I sell on eBay? Like,
yeah, because they're that nice.
This is Chrissy's 250,000 mile Mazda 3 that she's owned since new, that is about to become our latest race car because it's like a Viking funeral for this thing. So
the big block Mazda 3. I think it would be like airplane ownership, where you kind of pick who's in your club.
Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. I'll pick who's in my club. Jeff's not in my club.
Fine with that.
Moving on, you get too much hassles. He already gets them anyway. To more faithful followers of 3 p.m. may remember the infamous death ski. Chris took an old electric scooter, stretched it, mounted it to an abandoned jet ski we got from Soggy, and put it on top, and then it was sketchy to balance. The battery ran out after a few, I don't know if it was a few minutes.
Like 100 feet.
It needed,
if you let the charge really soak, you'd get a few laps of the paddock out of it, but that's like letting it soak for a week.
Yeah,
but if you didn't, they were Walmart lawnmower batteries. That's the best I could find.
Right, and it wasn't. It died in the parade at CMP, so wouldn't be able to keep up with that. But anyway, you had to. It didn't have a brake. You had to drag your foot on the exposed rear wheel to stop it. But as you surmised, we are trendsetters, right? And we're trendsetters we're then, now, and now. Anyway, there is a new scooter ski trend. So they're taking old scooters, putting a jet ski on top of them. There's Facebook group, and as James Gilboy writes over at the Drive, one scooter ski builder even earned themselves 15 minutes of fame when they were photographed riding down the Tennessee's famous Tail of the Dragon in full costume with the life jacket. Awesome. We did it first, so it doesn't really matter. Although there's not so many pictures of us with it on, but anyway.
Yeah, I wore that life jacket for the entire hangout at the in town night. Matt and I went into bars with it, and he was wearing a top hat.
I'm trying to find those pictures right now on Facebook and not up with them.
No, I
don't worry about it.
Around, but there's a link to the article, the Facebook group. I did actually watch the video, and the video, it kind of looks like it looks like a scooter, but it almost looks like it's a small it's like a mini bike, a motorcycle.
They use sit down jet skis. We had a stand up jet ski, which increased the death possibility by 1,000
because you could easily launch yourself right off the sides because you were standing.
It was twist grip for throttle, but the best part is it was lean to steer.
Yeah, because it was a skateboard.
Well, yeah, the front of it wasn't the scooter wheel. It was a off-road skateboard truck with stiffer springs and bushings in it. So as you would lean, it would turn. It was amazing.
Well, the worst part is
not the best because There it is.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
totally. Yep. Yep.
There it
That's
is.
a good
So
picture
it's-
of it, Chrissy.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for anybody who's listening. It is really just a like jet ski, not a
Stand-up jet ski. You
like a
can't- yeah.
sea-doo. Like the other ones are the sit down with the twist grip. The ones in this video, still pretty awesome, still hilarious to ride down the street because people will absolutely do a double or triple take, but not as cool as ours.
I have, whenever we bring up the jet ski, I have to bring up what Jay Lamb said about it. He said, this thing is the most dangerous vehicle per mile an hour that anyone can ride in the paddock.
It didn't last long.
It doesn't go fast, but man, it will skin your
Everything.
everything.
Fortunately, none of us, I can say this now, none of us got that hurt.
Oh, I got my foot like nearly taken off
Did
trying
you?
to
Oh,
stop.
I was.
It's
I'm
relative.
pretty sure.
That
relative.
hurt. We didn't get that hurt.
It's true. It's
okay.
We didn't like take off legs and broken bones and stuff. We could have gotten much more hurt, and it was really difficult to transport. That's another reason why we get rid of it. Anyway, link in our show notes.
No, finish the thing though, because we're such trendsetters. We know what's coming next.
Sure.
Which is
Rolls-Royce seats on jazzy scooters.
Totes.
been there, done
Okay. All right. I gotta wind up for this one. Dateline, California. Petaluma puts a permanent padlock on their previous petroleum pump pause, pins Puffle Up Porsche partisan Steph Schrader. If you didn't understand all that, it's fine. But Steph tells us over at the drive that the city of Petaluma, California, has banned any new gas stations and won't let existing ones add any more pumps. Now, California is pledged to end the sale of internal combustion by 2035 in a move that us Nevada gearheads call awesome because we're buying all your stuff cheap. Steph writes that the city council voted to make their 2019 moratorium on new pumps permanent. This is partially a result of the Coalition Opposing New Gas Station, or CONGAS for short. According to Gizmodo, the environmental group has spent the last 2 years pushing for all of Sonoma County, which includes Petaluma, to ban the addition of new gas stations. That will be a problem because there's a racetrack there.
Yeah, that might be a little bit difficult. Can I vent for a moment on this?
You may, but there's a link to the article in our show notes. Jeff, vent away.
I welcome the addition to our life of the electric vehicle. I'm all aboard. Do it. Make the grid. Absolutely. But this like knee jerk, like ban the gas station is like so not systems think. This is why people on Fox News who watch Fox News, like they just see this story. They're like, yes, I have like an hour of content where I can scream about the Green New Deal and how they're coming to get your gas. They're going to take your car. Idiots.
It's actually gonna. I think it's actually gonna do better for those of us who are enthusiasts. You know,
Electric cars are amazing.
Yeah, and you know, those of us who like to drive cool and fast and weird cars, also have just I really like people in Camrys and Hondas and stuff like that because it's how you get to work. It's how things happen, and those can be electric. They can be self-driving. I don't care, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for the day I push the button on my dashboard that says "Take me home."
Yeah. Honestly,
I mostly want that
to
for coming home from the racetrack.
I'm with
long,
Chris.
tiring weekend.
Yeah.
Home.
I don't want a self-driving car. I want a self-driving RV. Get in there after Sunday nights about 5:30. I'm exhausted. I stink. Push the button home. Grab a shower. Crack open a beer, and then wake up in my driveway. It's going to be great.
That's awesome. So, on the subject of things that should be banned. Or about to be banned, the only 8-time consecutive Formula One Constructor Championship winner, Mercedes, I almost said Mazda, oh my gosh, Mercedes AMG Racing revealed their 2021 F1 car virtually this week. Jerry Perzes writes at the drive about the new W12, which is, quote, the successor to the W11. Great naming convention, Mercedes. This W11, of course, is the chassis that won 13 out of 17 races in 2020. Mercedes will keep their black livery for this year as the team aims to solidify its stance against racism, promoting diversity within its own walls and across the motorsports in general. All of the things that we reported back in Lewis Hamilton's contract about diversifying the team and stuff, which is all great. We're down for it. So new F1 car. Chrissy, you're our expert. What do you think? 9-Pete? Or does a new car throw a wrench in that?
Well, I happened to watch the whole interview about the unveiling of the Mercedes car. And he is very humble, as no surprise at all.
Who's he?
Toto? No, Toto's not humble. It's Lewis.
Lewis.
No,
Lewis,
he's
okay.
not. Yes, Lewis is humble. And I don't know. Obviously they're saying we're going to win. It'd be great if we win. Lewis is just like, well, I've won a lot, so I'm just really want to push for ending racism and having more cool people at this sport. Like literally that's what he says. So, I mean, the car looks good. It looks similar to last year. They keep talking about this silver coming back into livery. Last year was all black, and now there's a little bit of silver. So they didn't do it. Toto didn't quite do it like that, but that's basically what they were saying. So, I don't know. Hard to say. Everybody's trying to pick up their game. Red Bull did really great last year. Who knows what anybody's going to do? I think they're trying to level the playing field because people are tired of one car running away from middle.
AMG Petronas.
Right.
Every
So-
week.
Yeah, just like the inside of a post office, right? So, I mean, the German, oh boy, this is really great. I will tell you the thing I really like, I saw the one I really picked up on and nobody really mentioned anything about it. The Alfa Romeo car has a big quadrifoglio on it now. Did you see that?
Oh, does
no.
it?
Finally, they decided they
Chrissy, Chrissy is our F1 expert, and she's actually got
Hardly.
all of us hooked on it, and so
That's true.
I'm gonna have to go look at it now.
I think all of the cars are getting unveiled this week. So basically every day there's something new coming up. And if you like F1 on Facebook, that's all you see. It's basically what comes out to.
I will have to do that. And the reason I'm going to have to do that is because we have an F1 fantasy league.
Yay!
You can all join. We basically stole this from your son's podcast, Eric, because they had an F1 league. So we wanted one too. Fantasy F1 league. Whoever wins, we're gonna send them junk. I don't know. It might be like old parts of the boat and a koozie, but
There will be a trophy. We've got someone that's going to 3D print us a ridiculous trophy, but they may still get parts of the boat and a koozie.
We still don't have anybody that's other than us. So daring you, join us.
Please join. Link is in the show notes to join the fantasy league, and also to the AMG Mercedes Petronas unveiling.
The fantasy league costs nothing.
Yeah, free, and you can win crap. Why wouldn't?
And there's going to be smack talk because there's always smack talk.
Somebody I did my sons for the last couple of years, and I love it. And it's more fun beating my son than anything else.
I'm calling Child Protective Services on you, sir.
Well, and it is because in that league he is the resident expert, and yes, he apparently does not do
well. Yeah.
Even better.
Yes.
All right.
Upcoming races.
World Racing League is at one of our favorite tracks, Barber Motorsports Parks, this weekend for a sold-out event. WRL's Mid-Ohio race in April is sold out within 48 hours of open registration, too. So good for them.
Good for them.
Wow.
For Barber, 66 cars, 27 are BMWs, which is just so boring. 9 Miatas, 4 Hondas, 13 Porsches, and yes, an Aston V8 Vantage.
Ooh.
Damn. Well, those are actually getting kind of cheap. The rough ones are down in the 30s now. So,
Got one of those. Not a rough one, but I've got an Aston. I can't even imagine that being on other.
But at Barber, it would be so choice.
Yeah. All right. Good luck to all those folks.
All right. Also this weekend, Champ Car is at VIR for the 12 hours at VIR South, which is right as you come into the bridge, you take a right and go up the hill. So you miss the infamous oak tree and the forever straightaway over the hill.
Oh, that's a terrible track. I mean, not terrible. You're just missing some good stuff.
Yeah. I think
and it's VIR, so it's a single day, right? Single day, 12 hours.
Oh, well, it's 12 hours. So so they'll start early and race into the night. 46 cars, 14 BMWs,
Boring.
still boring. 5 Miatas, 5 Hondas, 3 Porsches, and among a lot of very interesting entries, the 72 Ford LTD of the USS Enterprise. And we've seen that car.
Yeah, the thing is big.
Yes, it is.
Good for them. That's great. I love when wildly inappropriate cars show up when there are real racers around.
Now Eric knows why he's on the show.
But the LTD follows that 1/2 MV squared thing. There's a lot of kinetic energy when that thing's going down the road. I'm telling you.
I love the on the back of it, if they still have it, they had passing side with an arrow and then suicide with a sign to the
Nice. That's good.
And they raced under tuna chuckers when they were in Lemons. That's the same LTD or
different car?
LTD? Different car. All right.
Car.
Recent results. Nothing.
Nope.
It was winter.
No.
Nope.
But next week
we'll have a couple listener feedback time.
Okay, so we got some interesting topics on this one. So we posted a picture of our seatbelt solution for keeping them out of the way during driver changes. We use surgical tubing, which causes the belts to pull up and away from the driver when the buckle's undone. Some critical safety concerns were brought up in the comments.
So Todd Carver, who was the first team that I ever saw doing this, said, I believe the FIA discontinued this method. And he added, capital if, you do it, your belts must be made for this. You cannot loop the tubing through any part of the mechanism. It will affect the belt's ability to function. You have to install the hangers properly. Now, his current solution is a system that is easy for drivers to do, but doesn't add any tension on the belts. So they're evolving.
Our belts have dedicated loops for this, actually. So that's nice.
Yes.
Bill Strong did elaborate the tubes can hang up on Hans devices and they can loosen the belts. Again, it's all about how you install them. So he said that's why they're outlawed by IMSA and FIA. My comment is you should use a thin enough tubing that if you're sufficiently motivated, it's going to break, and route it in a way that it's going to stay out of the way. So we've done this for years and never, ever had an issue.
No, the radio is harder to sometimes snap off.
Yeah.
Than the tubes.
Well, we have trouble too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool
still,
suit.
yes,
the cool suit's going to hold you in before this thing is.
Yeah.
And then you're
Cool
going to be wet
suit's
because you
long,
can't figure
though.
out where.
Yeah.
Like I'm
You
out
make
of the
it long.
car. I'm out of the car when I'm like, oh, boing.
Well, I'm thinking about making the cool suit have added a solid, because they're doing all these new cages, having solid attachment points built into the car on the cage. So you have
So then you don't have to go fishing for it.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
Thinking about that.
All right. Still in the realm of safety, Carl Applegate caution: don't just don't test that out without a helmet, which sounds obvious, but there's no way that he is the only one who's been smacked in the face by a flying buckle.
Yes. Someone else, sorry, I already erased it. Also said, talked about it. I'm sorry. I totally missed that. I erased it. I forgot what it
you
said.
have a Donnie.
Oh no, no. He said to use Velcro, and then basically when you take it off.
That wasn't Dr. Florida Man Donnie.
No, that was somebody else. But no, I have
Inglorious Donnie Prevera. He's one of the Inglorious
Bastards. Yes. But I have a Donnie story. So, Chrissy, do you want to do yours and then I'll tell my Donnie
keep
story?
going.
Okay, so
You're already talking.
Other listener feedback. So Donnie posted a video. He was very upset at us because I suggested.
He's forceful,
just correcting us
that basically we continued to call that little computer that runs our LS an ECU, and he says it's a PCM. And
made a video explaining
it, and I gave him crap. I also gave him crap last week that I said he couldn't tell us. The man has a doctoral degree in mathematics and would not be able to tell us how many cars he owns in a whole number. So as he was texting me while I was
an
driving,
imaginary number.
Exactly. As I was texting,
-1.
Exactly.
As he was texting me while I was on the way to work, I was like, voice chatting, Chrissy, so I wasn't texting on the way to work.
Sometimes your voice chatting is terrible.
I know, it's terrible. So I sent him a picture of me at a high rate of speed and said, please send shorter text messages so that I can read them while I drive at this rate of speed. And he called me a amateur. I'll clean it up. And then I challenged him to tell me how many cars he had, and he had to do math on the screen. There were like 6 text messages. This, oh wait, plus this, oh wait, plus this, oh wait, plus this. So
And he's trimmed down his fleet recently.
He did. He just sold 3. So
But
I said 3 minus X equals what? You still suck and can't do the math.
He actually also corrected us when we said that we were racing the NASCARs for our Monday night E1R races, and in a paragraph explained, no, you are racing NASCAR eligibles at a,
Yeah.
Nobody cares,
my eyes
Donnie.
are rolling. Well,
Nobody
also my eyes are
cares.
rolling because
Nobody cares about any of this. Move on.
and I also hadn't posted. It was 15 minutes before the first race, and I was like, "Oh crap, we gotta tell people." No, not like anybody needs
we'll
to know.
call
Nobody
it what
cares.
we want.
I know. Okay, still
Real
keeping
listeners now.
our safety mindset. We showed how great Jeff is at using all of the cutting wheel. Picture also generated some responses.
Warburger thief Aaron saw it and said, "There's still life on that disc. Get back to work."
Eric Griffith said, grind it down. Grind it down.
Matt Ferenchek said, digging the Edith Prickly safety glasses. Edith Prickly is an old school SCTV character who wore horned rimmed like cat eye glasses, which
Remember that.
yeah, which I guess, yeah, I guess I looked like in my safety glasses. They were just totally normal safety glasses, I thought.
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
Oh, well.
Oh well.
All right. Also insanely popular was our quick video of Chris with the Rev Nut fastener for our under tray and the Z. Link it to the video as well as where you get yours is in our show notes. No, they aren't sponsoring us. We just really had a good time with it. And go ahead.
I say, and I'm sorry, I saw. So I've been marketed that tool by Facebook and Instagram because they've weaponized their marketing tools, and I'm like, oh, should I? If I see Chris using it, it's sold. I'm buying one now. So yeah, and this is the picture of Jeff in the Edith Prickly glasses.
Yeah,
Just
they're
You
nice
can see
glasses.
where he's coming from. They do kind of have a little
they got a little cat thing going.
thing. Yeah.
They're just very safe. He wore them all weekend. It was
absolutely, yeah. That's why we
They're better than a lot of we have a million crappy ones that we put on when we do plenty of things to not get stuff in your eyes, but these are very nice. Anyway, lastly, I want to do a shout out to Chris Bristow and his team that hosts a network of podcasts called Purgingers and Wall Hangers, I think. And they host varying podcasts such as the home of the Triforce, which is Marvel and such. Spoiler alert, which is has nerdy news and geek culture, and then Lug Nuts podcast, which features the latest in car news. So I happened to be working with Chris today, and we got to talking and traded some podcast knowledge. So shout out to the listeners and thanks to those who have subscribed already to our podcast.
Welcome,
we've got a link
new
to
listeners.
their podcast in our show notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Anyway, we did some iRacing. Eric, did you do any iRacing?
No.
No. Okay. We caught the Rona and we all had to stay in our house and we all bought iRacing setups. So we did the trash sprints at Oxford Plains and Irwindale. This was the Lemons iRacing. Nobody knows who won. It really didn't matter. We had the broadcast booth with all of us plus Hamza, Eric Rude, Ryan. Fantastic cars, fantastic video producing, I guess, because it's live.
Okay, and let's talk about our E1R race. We run a league on Monday nights at 9 and 10 Eastern, and password protected. Get a hold of us if you don't know what it is and want to know. And we also have a Discord link where we talk a lot the whole time. This past week we went to Watkins Glen because that's where Lemons is going this weekend. Ran the usual track and the usual cars. The second race was the top configuration in a variety of NASCARs. It was hard, but it was hard as the banter was down from usual, as all of us were concentrating. Wartburger Aaron won the first race. I have no idea who won the second.
I don't know either. Those
I wasn't there,
NASCARs, the NASCARs on the Glen are nigh impossible to like drive without like just totally trashing. At least for me. I don't know.
They were tough. And I even had a Watkins Glen setup on mine, but man.
Yeah, I followed Uncle Dave and went and bought the Supra, the Supra NASCAR
The
version.
new one, yes.
And
the new Xfinity Supra.
Yeah, in a straight line, as that thing would wind out, the rear end would step out on you. And that was also with the Watkins Glen setup. So
I just crashed right in the straight. I'd be driving down the straight and I'd overpower
What's
it
new?
and spin.
That happens every race.
And I am wearing my
Wrong.
safety glasses, by the way, since Chrissy brought it up.
All right.
So I've never really done it. I can't get a single lap on an iRacing thing for some reason without hitting a wall someplace.
Me too.
Yep.
I'm terrible at it.
I remember watching a NASCAR race at Watkins Glen a few years ago, or a year or two ago, and they, you know how they show on TV, they show the speeds through the bus stop and all the other. I realized that our speeds in Champ Car and most other racing, I'm sure the same, through the bus stop was actually faster than NASCAR was. And I kept thinking, God, those must be pigs to handle. They got to be horrible.
Yeah. Amazing. You're slowing so far down for the tight corner, especially the right-hand ones.
And depending how many years ago it was, NASCAR used to not let many changes happen, and many of the drivers would never do any road courses. So that's where like Boris said, and those used to come in and be like road course specialists. Now they all do like Rolex races, or all the good drivers. So they're much better at road courses than they used to be.
And I think they're all just racing enthusiasts. There's an article now talking about how the drivers in NASCAR love how bad those cars are on road courses because they are just having so much fun.
Well, and those of you who have not paid any attention to NASCAR, they're running on dirt this year.
Bristol.
First time
Yeah,
at Bristol.
it'll be
Yeah.
hilarious.
They're moving in like 10 million tons of dirt. It's going to be fantastic.
You know who never moves in 10 million tons of dirt?
Chrissy's mom,
Just 9.
9 million tons. She'll do. Hi, Chrissy's mom.
Hello, and sister and
sister,
nephew.
dad.
Yes, and dad.
All that.
Which ones are listening? Oh,
Yeah.
Mom is listening because she yelled at me about something today. So, hi, Mom. For when you listen to this.
And
So I actually-
and Chrissy's mom, you would not believe how often when people are talking about finally us getting back to racing together in meet space, that they are looking forward to Pittsburgh just to have one of your cookies.
Speaking of eating, my friend Lumpy actually commented on the YouTube video, and she said, I want to know what Chrissy is eating during the podcast. Every time I look up. So when you were at the hotel room, whichever, I guess that was last week.
Yeah.
She was like, she's snacking on something. I want some snacks. I don't know where that came from.
Well, yeah, they were Skittles. If she wanted,
There you go.
wanted to know.
Lumpy, they were Skittles. Me topic time. So we're talking to Dead Pedal Racing's Eric Peterson. Way back when we started this podcast 100 years ago, we were Lemons people, and we didn't really know a whole lot about the Champ Car world. And we kept getting the lists. We would email, and they would send us the list of the entries from Champ Car, and we would read, and it was all the same thing back then. It was RX-7s and BMWs and
Boring.
Camaros and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, it was like 87 Maserati BiTurbo, and we were like, what? Who's doing that? And now we found out. Fresh off, we were doing stuff like the Rolls Royce. We had an Isuzu Hombre. We had a Citroen SM. We knew that we had to talk to the guy who runs the BiTurbo. And as luck would have it, when we were on the APEC adjacent podcast, we mentioned it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's my dad." We're like, "What?"
Which makes so much sense.
So much more sense. So finally we get to meet Eric Peterson. And then we found out from your son, he gave us some information.
Uh-oh.
You don't have like a Maserati.
No, this
or
is
a couple
Eric.
of Maseratis.
Eric told us all of this. Eric owned all of this. He's the one that told us that.
Oh. No, his son told us, ask him how many he has.
Oh.
And he guarantees you are either going to lie, not know the number.
It's an imaginary number. He's an engine. He's a chief scientist, so he's doing the math.
No, actually, I only have 2 now, and parts of several others. because that's how you buy parts. You don't buy parts; you buy the car, and then you do.
Do you dismantle them, or you just like
Sure.
leave them somewhere and wait for that part to like be needed?
No, we take them apart generally. One of them, matter of fact, if you think I was crazy before, we are going to probably become by the end of this year a 2 Maserati team.
Both BiTurbos?
Both the turbos, yeah.
I think that's going to be the first time in the history of racing, because I don't think even Maserati was a 2 Maserati team.
Well, they did have a series the Firebird series way back when in the mid '80s, I think.
Yeah.
I remember right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, one of those that was a factory race car has been restored and will probably find its way to some of the South Florida racetracks here shortly.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah. And of course, the BiTurbo group is just a kind of group of people who all know each other. And Lenny Celebrity, who's one of our drivers and runs Auto Italia in California, he has one he's setting up from NASA. He'll be running NASA this year in the BiTurbo as well.
And did you infect him? Did you like drop a chassis at his house and like, you can have this?
No, he actually went to Canada and bought this X. I don't remember what series it ran, but there was a series that was running in Canada for a few years.
Crazy Canuck series. I remember watching that. It was the like Snowy Canucks and Wild Geese series, I think. That was
something like that, yeah.
So tell us about your racing history. How did you get into this crap can racing? Obviously, you were infected by a BiTurbo at some point. Give us the history.
All right. Well, I started racing when I was about 13 or so. Go-karts, like most of us have started that way, one way or the other. Had a really bad accident. Doggone near cut off my arm. And my mom said, "That's it. No more go-kart racing for you." So my dad bought me a car.
It's a good plan. You know, like he nearly killed himself with like 15 horsepower. Let's buy a car.
Mm-hmm, right. And I went to Bondurant, did a bunch of stuff in the late 70s, a little bit of open wheel stuff. But then I had kids, one of which was Ian. And I'd been doing, and this is something I'm going to tell you on this because I haven't told anybody else, but Ian was, we used to do a lot of ski jumping. We were, being from the Midwest, we were ski jumpers. And Ian actually was good enough so that he made the Junior Olympics in, I don't remember what year that was. Yeah.
Wow.
So we kind of did that during the time when the kids were growing up, because you start that at age about 3 and then don't quit until you're too old to do that anymore. Surprisingly enough, an awful lot of, not an awful lot, but several guys I jumped against and with are also racers. They quit ski jumping and became racers. An awful lot of the same things go on in your head when you're doing ski jumping and racing. So after the kids got done, I did a lot of drag racing. Did some circle track racing just for the kicks, and it was cheap. And then after the kids got out of college, out of school, moved out, I found out that I had given myself a raise. So I figured a good way to make a little bit of money in racing is to start with a lot and become very poor very quickly.
Yes.
So
I work for a college, and there's a reason that parents are crying with joy at graduation.
Right.
They're proud of their kids, but they're really thinking about the beach house. Let's be honest.
Right. Or in my case, it was the race car. But we had actually I'd bought a 535i 87, thinking that was going to be our race car. But then we went to a couple of races and watched how that was done, and went to a Lemons race, went to a Chump race. All we saw is BMWs, and that's kind of wrinkled my nose.
Absolutely.
And you understand now that, like, whenever we read, BMWs, we all go boring, because it's not the fault of the car. They are just competent out of the box and they're everywhere, but it's a lazy solution, even though we have one on our team.
Well, I ended up buying this Maserati. I actually had it given to me in trade for some work I did and it was in pieces.
Was he unsatisfied with the work? Was he mad at you?
Like,
it was something completely. I actually was doing some DJing, believe it or not. If you can picture me doing DJing.
Don't get any ideas, Eric.
Yeah, really. We have another Eric who has a 914 who is a DJ.
So they couldn't pay the bill, and I thought, okay, here's this thing is sitting in a garbage, or not garbage, but in a garage. It's pieces. Like,
I got 3 chickens or Maserati BiTurbo. Which one would you like?
And when I first met my wife, we lived in she lived in Oak Park, Illinois, and there was a little Italian restaurant in Forest Park. It was amazingly good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's good location for some Italian
Yeah.
food.
And the owner of that place had a red BiTurbo. And every time we'd go there, I'd just Google over this thing. I just loved the way the lines were, and it was just different enough so that I really got a kick out of it. I just loved that thing. And then when this thing came up, here's this red BiTurbo sitting in a garage, and I put it in my garage for about 4 or 5 years, thinking I was going to restore it. And then my wife, who wanted to redo the first floor of our house, said, "You got to move it because we're going to have to be putting construction material in there." So I took it to a place that was supposed to do a restore, and he called me about a week later and said, "This thing is full of it's a mess, and I know nothing about Maserati. So what do you want to do? You're going to need a donor car." So
that's
enough,
where it starts.
That's where it starts. So I gave him. There happened to be one on Craigslist in Rochester, Minnesota, which is 2 hours down the road.
No rust in Rochester, Minnesota. Not a problem.
There was none. It was absolutely clean. It had been brought in from California. It was an 85 with a liquid intercoolers, and which is very rare. And somebody had taken it apart and stuffed it on the north side of a garage someplace. And there wasn't a speck of rust on it. So he brought it back for $1,200, including the trip back and forth. So I got it for next to nothing. I met another guy who had an 87 BiTurbo in his garage in pieces. I bought that for $500. And then once I figured, okay, I'm going to make one good car out of this. So I pulled the interior out. I got, hey, I'm halfway to a race car.
Let's just keep going.
Finish it. That's right.
Let me just interject. I feel like all
of
our listeners are going, "Oh yeah, that's
I've been there." Yeah. So if everyone you can find for sale is apart and in boxes, that is not a good sign.
Or it's an opportunity.
What's your point?
That's what we thought. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with this thing. I figured, okay, it's never going to be a good race car. We'll do it for one season, and I'm sure it's going to break itself every time it gets a chance. But as I got into it, I found out, thing's got a 22-gallon gas tank. It's got a cute little V6 that is really well put together. If you think about it and look at it, it is really a dynamite, bulletproof engine. But everything that was bad about it, that the Italians and the Americans hated about this Italian car were, for example, all the electrics. That's all getting ripped out anyway, right? The ECU sucked, and we unfortunately kept that for about 10 years and fought with that forever. But it really, and it had a bunch of stuff in it that made the current rules for chump car really good. For example, you couldn't do a 2X. You could only spend twice stock price for brakes. Front brakes were from a Testarossa. We could, they were $500 a piece. We could stick anything on there.
Any braking system you wanted, yeah.
Yeah, because it fit under the 2X rule. The differential was back then was a Torsen. Back when nobody else had a Torsen. And any part that you wanted to buy for this thing was so ridiculously expensive, we could replace everything with used parts or remanufactured parts or better parts. And it became quite a decent thing. And once you ripped all the interior and everything else out, we realized we were Miata weight. So one thing led to another.
And we started out in Lemons, and it's because it's governed by strength of personality. But this is one of the things that I think a lot of chump people enjoy is, and we got to interview Bill Strong at the track, that we saw him at SEMA later. We love Champ Car, but it's people enjoy, you've made this rule. I will find space within this rule to do what I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When they gave us our points, for all BiTurbos between 1982 and 1996. All the same points. Do you know how many ranges of engines there were between 1982 and 1996?
I was going to say 1996. That was a pretty hot car.
And they got a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, we keep threatening, except I can't afford a Shamal. But we keep thinking, that technically is a BiTurbo, right?
Yeah,
And everything
sure.
but name.
Unfortunately, it's $100,000 to find one, but it's technically
But
we could.
would
find
it be
motors
any
today.
better than? Probably not, right? I mean,
No, and that's been part of the problem. We didn't know how good this thing was going to be, so we've been tuning it up, putting the power to it a little bit more, running basically 2 pounds under boost, just to make sure that we knew what we were doing, how we were going to manage heat and fuel, and now we're running 14 pounds of boost. And stock was 9. So we're seeing some pretty decent boost. We can go to 16 or 17 without a sweat at all. And the bottom end of that thing is just bulletproof. It can take just about anything you want to give it. So
they're not small cars. I was surprised that you got it down to 2,300 pounds. And
it's really not that big either, because everything's so thin. For example, if you look at the way the fenders are, the front fenders are literally welded, or the whole body's welded nose to tail. You can't take off the front fenders. So it's naturally exceedingly rigid.
Yeah. I saw some speed holes in that picture there. It looked like you used the dimple die here or there.
Yep. Yeah. We've been taking any pound we can get out is gone.
Nice. Any exotic metals? I know nothing about the BiTurbo except the guy I knew in high school who had one, who was the scummiest lawyer I've ever met in my life. He's the first guy I ever heard call the police the federales. So that's it. I know nothing about it. So any exotic materials? It got aluminum body in there or anything? Or it looks like you got some kind of carbon hood going there.
No, that's just a sticker. Champ doesn't allow us to use carbon. And this one, the body has been kind of changed. Those are printed, 3D printed front headlight bezels. We tried to make it look like a Ghibli cup. But basically it's the same car. The only thing that's aluminum, we did change the radiator. We got a big honking radiator from a big block Chevy in there.
That's your standard endurance racing model, right? A lot of brakes, a lot of cooling.
Right. Yep. And the engine is, of course, completely aluminum. But no, there's nothing real special about it.
What kind of injection they have in that? Is it?
There was an electronic fuel injection originally. 87 was the first year they did that. Everything else was that had a plenum.
They had the CIS thing, right? The early ones, yeah.
And that gave them better throttle response, but you couldn't keep them tuned. They were just horrible. So we chose to stay with anything that was an ejected model. We've now changed that all out because we can under the rules. If you're not winning, you're not reading the rules tight enough, right?
Yeah. Backdate, foredate.
Yeah, right. So we put a Haltech system in with bigger injectors about a year ago, 6 coils, and gone distributorless, and that helps a lot too. So. Note we do have in that picture, you do see that we did keep the original wood shift handle.
I completely missed
Very
that,
important.
and I love it. That is wonderful.
That's a touch of class right there.
It comes stock with a dogleg ZF 5-speed, which is perfect for what we're trying to do. And that is a bulletproof transmission, by the way.
So 300 horsepower, 2,300 pounds.
Yeah.
You said a Torsen. I assume the suspension is what kind of suspension you got on that thing?
We can't use adjustable shocks, so we're stuck with just some Bilstein gas, which came originally with that car, and is legal. And we shortened springs. We have about 700. We're at about 700 pounds up front, and about 450 in the rear for spring rate. So we're pretty tight. We've made our own camber plates because there's no room around the springs to add coilovers at all. There's just tens of thousands of an inch. So we ended up making a camber plate that gave us like almost a variable caster on top of everything else, because it kicks the rear end out and swings it this way. It gives a really interesting turn in. If you're not used to it, it'll bite you, but especially in the winter wet, it's pretty tough. We're running about 4 degrees camber up front and about 1 degree in the rear, and that's not settable. So that's where you got all stock in the rear end. It came with front and rear sway bars. That's what I mean. Everybody looks by the turbo because it was such a piece of garbage on the street, but it has front and rear sway bars with Heim joints on both 4 corners, stock. So we don't get charged for that either. So
now, some of our listeners might not be as familiar. Oh my, that is a sexy beast.
That's how we bought it. Yeah.
Look at those rear wheels.
We have to talk about what's going on here.
Go on, Chrissy. Explain what we're all looking at.
This looks almost like you would call a barn find. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what that's what it would look like. It is.
That used to be a barn. I'm not sure that's a barn anymore. That's like a.
No. I'm just saying of like how it looks like you've rolled it out of somewhere. The wheels may or may not be, the tires may or may not be flat. They kind of look like it can roll, but it is fairly dusty. It is.
Grill is missing.
Looks like.
But it's got some kind of body kit on it. It's got some extra bits and bobbles and a wing and hood vents and some incredible dish wheels in the back.
Those wheels in the back are sexy.
We sold those wheels when I bought that car, and that's actually a place in Vermont, in northern Vermont, and we found it. That
looks like northern Vermont.
Yeah, right.
I've never been in northern Vermont in my life, but if you said, "What does northern Vermont look like?"
That would be it.
It's a rusty oil drum, a dusty barn with moss on the roof, and a Maserati. I was thinking Volvo, but same thing.
Yeah. So I sold those wheels for what I paid for the car entirely.
That's a win.
We had other stuff. Yeah.
Of course you did.
Excellent.
Go ahead. I know a bunch of us have questions. Go ahead. Everybody got questions. I don't want to dominate the whole interview. Okay, you're not ready for questions.
Everybody's sweet. Everybody's
waiting.
What kind of you should go do this? I know.
Cool. I'm wondering how hard it is to get parts aside from buying a whole car, which you mentioned. Yeah, that's so be it. But it seems like a lot of stuff you're probably going to end up fabricating from something else. It would seem.
Some of that we have, and I've actually kind of turned that into a secondary business. Things like cam tower covers, steering mounts, things like that. The stock stuff is either unavailable or wasn't going to make it. But one of my drivers, like I said, is Lenny Celeberti, who basically imports and supplies all the turbo parts for North America and theoretically for the entire world.
A good friend to have if you do this, then.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll be with us at Daytona. He'll be driving. But he's got a couple of records. One at Laguna Seca, actually, in his Fiat something or other that he rode, and that record stood for 15, 20 years in that class. So he's a pretty accomplished driver on everything else. He handles Fiat, some Fiat's parts, always getting out of that. Maserati stuff, mostly the turbos, and Lancia, which I think is the coolest thing to do too. Is if I ever find a cheap Lancia Delta, I'll try that one next.
Yeah, good luck on that.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, they're findable, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly.
But for example, the brakes up front, the rotors were solid. For some reason, they put those wonderful, expensive 4-piston dual circuit Testarossa pads and calipers up there, but then they put solid discs in.
And then they didn't give you a vented disc.
Right. Yeah. So I figured out that this offsets everything the same. I just went off to Rock Auto and found some Subaru vented discs in there on there now.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then just put spacers in the calipers, and we also found out that BiTurbo's Maserati about that time must have been raiding everybody else's toolbox because they used the same calipers is a BMW 633 CSI. So
Excellent.
worked out fine.
Makes it easier.
Flavio,
I think a lot of Italian
rotors. I want to go to lunch. Just use BMW. He's fine.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think Italian cars are a lot like that. Like my briefly owned '87 Bertone X19 shared a variety of parts with all kinds of other stuff. Like the door handles were the same as a Ferrari 308 because I'm sure that like it was off of some other Fiat, and Ferrari's like, yeah, we'll use that door handle. It's fine.
I was going to say it's the other
Things
way.
like
The
that.
308
Exactly.
door handles came off the X19 probably.
You probably came off a Punto or something dumb like that to start with.
It's that way on other cars. I have an Aston Martin, like I said, and the Advantage, and the key fob, it's got a little leather cover, but underneath it says Volvo.
Yeah, it's a Volvo.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen people
And it's
undo the leather.
Right, and it's, for example, a thermostat. I bought a Jaguar thermostat, fits right in. You know, it's those kinds of things. They're all over the place.
All right. Now, he in our discussion getting him on the show, he sent us a stack of really good photos. I'm going to briefly get to this because I know Chrissy's got a great question. So real quick, we're going to do our best to describe this, but he mentioned earlier the destruction, the crash, and then how they fixed it utilizing a parts car. So here is the crash.
Oh,
That's
Ooh.
that's the Watkins.
that's a big hit.
It is.
That side,
It's-
that
The
side is
70
pretty much torn apart.
Wait,
Yeah,
Chris,
that's
do
it.
your insurance thing. Tell us what's broken. Tell us what we need to fix.
And Chris, while you're talking, I'm going to bring up another one. So keep
Well,
going.
you're gonna
Chris.
certainly need to replace the quarter panel door fender. There's issues with them, probably into the rocker, the B pillar, or the A pillar. Yeah, the whole side. Oh, the whole.
This is the front
basically.
end. Yeah, and
Yeah,
It's-
that was after Watkins Glen. That's when we hit the arm coat.
And
And
Mental,
then,
you don't need to. Yeah, I was gonna say you could. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, it's cutting the whole
car
side.
I bought. Right, that's the car I bought 20 miles or so away from Road America.
yes.
Wow.
So you see where they literally cut it at the B pillar, pulled the whole quarter panel off. It's actually a very professional cut. And
Yep,
then
and the rocker, the dog leg, the old adder quarter. Yeah,
I love the
Yeah.
seats.
Mm-hmm. Sold the seats and made a couple of bucks there too.
Yep.
And then there it is getting repaired. Just this gorgeous bodywork of the car that we described at the beginning of the show, the black and red. They got it all stitched in. Looks fantastic.
damn. Wow. So that's probably got to be the biggest heartbreak of this whole thing. What was the biggest win you think of all of the racing you've done with this? It didn't have to be actually a win, but the big, I guess, triumph for you.
I think it was, and I mentioned it when I was writing stuff. Our first win at Laguna Seca. We've been fighting and fighting, and this was really our first race after that wreck. So we were still trying to get the bugs out of this thing, and I had the first. It was on the second day, and in the West Coast Champ car at that kind of chump, they scored 2 days together. And we didn't know where we stood. We were like fourth or fifth after the first day, and about 2/3 of the way through the second day in class. And there were some really fast machines out there because we have to run D class. We got turbos. So I went out. I got in the car. We had about 3 hours or so left. I was going to do my 2-hour stint, and I didn't get more than about half hour into it, and my radio quit. I didn't know it had quit. I didn't hear anybody. I couldn't read anybody. And I was complaining. I wanted to complain because I wasn't getting any coolness out of my cool suit.
We know nothing about this.
Yeah.
I once did a 4-hour shift.
Once?
Chrissy didn't plug me in. Oh no, that was my water. She forgot to put in my water.
No, but there's plenty of times where we've had actually our last win in the Honda. All of us didn't. I had
in
cool
August.
enough, nobody else did.
Yeah.
Nobody did. Yep. So we know all about that.
So anyway, I didn't know when I was supposed to come in. We have this communication problem, obviously, with Death Metal Racing, because nobody decided to go out with a pit board or anything and let me know that it was time to come in. I started going through the corkscrew. I started sputtering and sputtering. So I think I better go in to get some gas. I didn't know where I was. So sure enough, I came back in, came out. I'd quit sweating a half hour earlier.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
I
Good sign
was
when you're in the
done.
car.
No, it's
everybody.
not.
So I got pulled out of the car. They hydrated me, and I took a nap right away. My brother got
which
in the
is
car.
a polite way of saying you passed out from exhaustion.
Much, yeah, I was
sure.
shot,
Okay.
My brother got in for the last hour or so, or 40 minutes or so of the thing to bring us home. And my crew chief, Dwayne Wagner, woke me up about a half hour into it. He says, we're going to win. I go, come on, you're just being a jerk now. I was starting to get kind of pissed because I figured he was just giving me a hard time. When last time I knew we were fourth or fifth in the class, and we didn't have a chance of doing anything. And I, all the way through this thing, all the way till the end, and until we were hauled into
impound.
Impound, yeah.
Yeah.
I until that time, I still thought he was really giving me a hard time. So we won, and we won pretty handily too. It was by a couple of laps. So
Great track.
That's
win at.
fantastic.
I love that track. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I think the same thing was true with another one like that was Watkins Glen the first time I went there and won there.
So
that
Daytona,
track.
Watkins Glen, where in the world do you live, and how are you trailering this thing to like the four corners of the United States?
I live up in Northwest Wisconsin. You have to go here on purpose. There's no big interstates.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. There's lots of snow still on the ground, by the way. But I have about 2 hours out of Brainerd and about 3 hours out of Road America. So we consider Brainerd our home track, but
Good track.
do like Road America too. We've won there too as well.
Fast track.
Yeah.
It is. It's tough on cars, especially when we tend to do our races there in the early spring and late fall. So there's snow on both ends of that one usually.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I got to tell you, one of the things about the BiTurbo that is really tough, it has a really short wheelbase and turbos, and it's not balanced. What could possibly go wrong with that picture?
Yeah.
Like good things.
It doesn't snap at all. Don't worry.
No, it's like a
Fine.
supercharged TR7. No,
Not a
fan.
problem. Yeah. Yeah, we have
Wow.
a TR7 with a Buick 3800 supercharged on it, and it will
Really?
it will make you be very glad your insurance is paid and
Yeah.
your
Life insurance.
Well,
life
yeah.
insurance
Yeah.
is
Welded diff when it's raining. That's always fun.
Crooked chassis. Yeah.
I've
Eric?
got yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement.
I actually have one of my crew members just stuck a 3800 supercharged Buick in the back of a 66 Corvair.
Because it's the
Oh,
Midwest.
that'll
and
work.
And
Hell
because
yeah.
3800s are everywhere. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no failing
Same
that
car.
plan either. But
No, wait. If the supercharged 3800 Grand Prix is the Jug of Lambo, and the Grand Am is the Jug of Lexus.
No, the Bonneville's
The Bonneville's the Jug of
thank you.
Lexus.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is the 3800 supercharged? It's a Jug.
Corvair.
It's the
Corvair.
Jugga. It's the Jugga
It's a
LS.
classic.
The 3800 supercharge is a Jugga LS that you drop in everything.
I like that. The Jug of Classic.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about Juggalos, which is a band of there. Eric,
Oh,
we
he
could
knows.
do
He's from
this.
Wisconsin.
Fair.
He's going chicken
Eric,
hunt. He knows how
Eric-
magnets work.
Yeah, we could do this all night and just listen to you talk wonderful stories about great Italian cars and bad decisions, because you are definitely our kind of person. I hesitate to ask this because you did send us some great pictures. Do you guys do any social media that we could point our listeners to follow you guys this season?
Well, we used to have a really good website until that got hacked and cremated. So
We do
we're in the middle
remember
of
that
doing-
website because we were trying to reach you.
But we do have a Facebook page, Dead Pedal Racing. Facebook
All right,
page.
we will.
That's where
We'll
we-
get that linked up in the show notes.
Sure.
This is, and again, I genuinely hope that we can all get to a racetrack together sometime and sit down and drink many or not many beers. I don't know, but this has been awesome, and especially, yeah, with not just your race cars, but you mentioned before the show started recording, you've got two W8 Passats and a Vantage, and then you're actually good Maserati. So yeah, you were our type of
Yeah.
people. And
I didn't get to ask. Do you have a street BiTurbo?
Yes.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. Yeah, that's going to soon become our second race car.
Oh, okay.
Because I last year I put on 200 miles on the thing, and it's really not worth much. So, but
So
on top of the W8, I got even a rarer one, by the way. If you like Volkswagens, I have one.
I'm ready.
I have one of 11 R36s in this country.
I don't know what an R36 is. What is that?
They didn't come here officially. They only came out in 2008. This one happens to be a wagon. It was a 300 horsepower VR6 3.6 liter station wagon.
It's like
it's a Passat base, right?
It's a Passat base.
Yeah, but it's just with a
I just Googled it.
Yeah.
Me too. And I know my Volkswagens.
I don't know Volkswagens, so
yeah, they were given to 11 dealers across the country in 2008, with the understanding that they couldn't sell them for 5 years. One came out. A dealer I knew in Seattle. He let me know that he was going to sell it. I wired him the money, flew out to Seattle, and drove it home.
Oh,
wow.
Right now, our friend Tom Lamino is going to have to pull over and have a moment. Because to get some blood flow back to his brain.
Actually, Tom would like Eric a lot. I mean, Tom's daily driver is a Giulia Quadrifoglio.
That's my daily driver in the summertime too.
Excellent.
We're sitting right outside. Yeah.
Perfect.
Now I have a question for you. Yeah. If the battery loses a little bit, does the whole car not run? Because his is yeah. Yeah,
but there's a battery upgrade. He should get that taken care of if it's still under warranty.
Tom Lamino, to the dealership. Yeah, get yourself a battery upgrade.
Oh, this is wonderful. So we've got to wrap this up. Thank you so much. I enjoyed Daytona. I wish I was going down there for that one.
And go ahead. I'm sorry, Mental. I was going to say we have been threatening to go to a champ car for a very long time because they run some tracks that we don't get to run in Lemons. So a VIR or Watkins Glen. Yeah. If we can ever get one of our cars that will pass both techs and not be total, we're going to run X class anyway, just because it won't class right. But maybe we'll see you on the track.
Well, we're still deciding whether we're going to do Hallett or Watkins Glen. We'll do one of the two.
Watkins Glen is historic, but I love Hallett because I lived in Oklahoma forever, and Connie is like a friend. I feel like every time I go there, it's like going home.
Yeah, if Watkins Glen wasn't my favorite track on the planet, there would be no question. Hallett's pretty cool.
Hallett is great. All right. So I believe we're going to wrap this up. So head over to Facebook, check out Dead Pedal Racing, but Chrissy has an actual legitimate Just the
tip.
It's been a while. I feel like we need to do an intro. Chrissy, you are a safety professional, are you not?
That I am today.
And just the tip is when you give us a safety tip to keep us from killing ourselves.
Yes, and I think this one's a pretty good one. So you already knew this, but March is ladder safety.
I did not know that.
Oh, come on. Don't you celebrate? Like there's a day.
How do you celebrate ladder safety month?
I don't know. Okay.
Strip the roof off your house.
Right. There you go. So some of these things and I'll tell a story after I'm done with this. But now that it's spring and you might be doing some of your work on your ladder soon, or you have been doing it, here's some reminders for you. And remember my voice when you are dealing with a ladder, and you will think about what you're doing and then think about how you shouldn't be doing it, probably the way that you're doing it. So before you start, make sure you're wearing the right shoes. It's got to be clean, slip resistant shoes, no flip flops, please.
Chris, what do you wear every time we work?
Only in the summer. Only in the summer.
And not usually when he's going on the ladder. Like they're usually pretty good, especially on our roof is we have a 2-story, but ours is, especially in the back, is kind of 2.5. So you're pretty good about extension ladder safety. But anyway, if you need to bring anything with you to the top of your ladder, and we're talking even if it's just shorter indoor ladder, consider how you're going to carry all the stuff to the top of your ladder. So make sure that you have a belt maybe, or cargo pants, or something that makes sure that your hands are free. Check your ladder, make sure it's in good condition, and make sure that you're using the right ladder for the job. Don't do something like, oh, this one's tall enough, but I can, if I stand on the top, I can get to what I need to.
and put it on a bucket.
Yes. Don't do or the stairs
They put
or whatever.
some cinder blocks and a 2x4.
I'm
Put
getting
the ladder on that.
I'm getting the shakes. Just stop that. Don't do that. Don't do any of these things. Make sure where you're placing it is firm. So on the firm ground. And this is a good thought. Make sure that you're not putting it in front of a closed door so that it could open into it. This is a good thought. Our front door, Chris often puts the ladder on the front of our house to get up to the front of our house, and it is in front of a door. So make sure that it's either far enough away or you have somebody standing by so nobody just opens the door and then knocks down the ladder. And now that you're confident in yourself and your ladder, make sure you're using those 3 points of contact. So that's both feet and one hand and vice versa as you're climbing. Make sure you have that good firm stance on your ladder.
I'm looking for my OSHA violation TikTok song. I can't find it.
It's fine.
I will say, and I will shout out Chrissy on this one because the belt. So because I did Habitat for Humanity, they were always like, go to the store and get one of them stupid work belts because they really do work. If you're working on a ladder or on a roof, I know it's silly, but go out and buy the work belt. They really are functional.
And same thing when we were redoing our house in Georgia. And I was never more than 2 steps up, but it just got annoying going down, get screwed, go back up. No, just have it all right there. It's great.
All right. Next show next week. Do we have any idea what we're covering?
No.
Not right now. We will tomorrow.
We'll figure it out someday. Don't worry. Wednesday, maybe. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Eric from Dead Pedal Racing. One last pimping, find Dead Pedal Racing on the Facebook because someone stole their website.
Do they sell hats on your website now too?
That's what they do.
With our. They stole our website.
ThreePedalMafia.com. They stole us.
Did they? Yeah, no, I think somebody stole it and became a Japanese porn site, to be real honest. I don't know.
Oh,
well,
what's the URL?
So much better.
Wait, shh. What's the URL? Tell me. Send it a message. Do they have tentacles? I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Eric. Thank you for downloading us, all of you out there in podcast land. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We also hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and building because everyone can be a racer. Even if you want to bring a BiTurbo to a champ car, hell yeah, you can be a racer. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. It is totally free. Then go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. Even if you hate us, give us 5 stars. Tell us why. If you're watching on the YouTube, you can see my safety glasses and give us a comment down there on the doodly-doo. You can also find our Facebook page, Everyone Racers, or email us at everyone.racers@gmail.com. You can text us at 484-243-0455. Mental will answer. Find us on Instagram or Twitter at everyone.racers. And we are now officially on Spotify. So tell your friends that while they're on their Peloton bike because they broke their legs on the dirt bike because they are too old to be on a dirt bike, that they can find us on Spotify. Thanks again. And until next week, keep the shiny side up. And my music is out. Unless you have an R32, then just drive that puppy as hard as possible.